Hello, all you beautiful gamers. As per usual, welcome back to the Esports Rewind podcast. My name is Jake. This is Zane. Hello, Zan.
Hey. You're going to confuse people, going with Zane, then immediately followed by Zan.
I'm going to hurt my heart today. Like, every time I laugh, my chest really hurts. So let's keep it to a minimum. But how you doing this week, man? It's been wild.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. Ups and downs, definitely.
Certainly.
But, we're ending the week on a strong note with the podcast. Always happy to be here.
Certainly so. And we're going to keep on talking about some great topics. We are so glad you guys can join us on whatever platform you are watching or listening here to the Esports Rewind podcast. Let's get it rolling. And first off and foremost, going to slap you around a little bit here.
Okay. Little front hand, backhand action.
You, man, I can't laugh today.
You're the one who started it. That's not my fault.
Oh, my gosh. Either way, we have talked a lot about Valorant trash talk. I think Valorant is a rising scene, as we have well noted.
Indeed.
Even during these very troublesome times of a pandemic going around, we've seen so many gigantic esports organizations give note to Valorant with its rise and slowly but surely unraveling more events. And First Strike so far for North America has been very fun. TSM versus Sentinels, 100T's trash talk here and there. People still hating on 100T. There are some moments, though, in time that trash talk is certainly taken probably a bit too far. And unfortunately so, one of the very first Valorant Pro controversies, if I might add. Luckily enough, I think there's a few more select viewers on the podcast, but I do want to talk about this kind of stuff because it's a continual note of whether or not you are on stream or not on stream, some of the things you really should not be saying. And certainly an instance this past week, which I spoke very briefly to you about, is a FaZe Clan Valorant Pro known as Marv choosing to say some things on stream about another pro's girlfriend. And this coming a couple days after the adorable clip of TenZ and his girlfriend, the lights on or off clip, which is, amazing to see. And if you guys want a quick TLDR, there was a clip that surfaced where, unfortunately, it was Shanks as well as Marv. Marv was the one who spoke and is a current FaZe Clan Valorant Pro, said some very, very disturbing things about another pro, that being TenZ and his girlfriend. I really don't want to go into detail about exactly what was said.
Engaging in, inappropriate actions with TenZ's girlfriend.
It was pretty vulgar what was said as well. I just want to quickly say, for a guy like TenZ, I think a lot of pro players out there who even I know he has heard that clip and said nothing publicly. Now Marv has apologized, as one should. He actually let me know he apologized privately, and then he took to Twitter very shortly to apologize publicly without necessarily saying exactly what it was, because it's not a moment you want out there. Clearly,
of course, yeah.
I think it puts us in these tricky shoes where we talk about these things. It's not fun, but it's it's part of the job, right? You're going to talk about the good, you're going to talk about the bad, and no matter who this is, if this kind of clip comes up, I like to think that we would cover it. And it's just I bet a constant reminder, whether or not you are streaming, you got to be respectful, you got to be responsible, especially when you represent something like FaZe Clan, right? Like you represent an organization, and the way people portray you, they will begin to portray the organization you represent, and that's the only way I can really word it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I come at these situations from the perspective of someone who I've never said anything like this on a call, on like Skype calls, Discord calls, no matter how late at night it is, even if I'm like under the influence or anything, like, this type of stuff would just never come out of my mouth. But I always try to see it from the other person's perspective, right? And even then, I got to imagine if you're in a situation with your boys, you know that, hey, these are my lads, they're comfortable with this type of joking
very
around.
close friends, yeah.
Yeah. Even then, I just think at this point, it's just a dumb move to have these types of conversations while playing games online with your friends. Because at this point, especially for somebody who's in a content creation organization, in a world where everything is recorded, things get clipped constantly, why would you even put yourself in this position? It's just not the move. Leaving out any moral aspects of this. Yeah, just from a pure logical standpoint, like, why even do this?
Yeah, but either way, I wanted to get your 2 cents on that, what you guys think as well. And I would say at the end of the day, the way that Kai, that's TenZ's girlfriend, and the way that Tyson, that is TenZ, reacted, top notch, because I do personally think if it was even more notable pros from other esports scenes, this would have gone public and would have gone much more viral.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a learning lesson for all those involved, for sure.
And hopefully they take the lesson.
Hopefully so.
All right, Jake, you know what? Let's dance a little bit on the wild side tonight. Diverge off the well-beaten path for us and talk about Rainbow Six Siege a little bit.
A little bit of drama this past week, huh?
Yeah, a little tiny smidgen, you know.
It's more than a smidgen.
Yeah. I was, being
I
a
know,
little bit reductive there. But anyway, for those of you who are not aware, we've been seeing a little bit of an issue with the former eUnited roster in Rainbow Six Siege in the past week. eUnited, just in the last few months, decided to leave the R6 scene, mostly in part due to the pandemic and the lack of stability and consistency in a scene like R6. The org itself just felt like it was the right time to make their exit. However, their pro league roster had already qualified for the 2021 season. Very solid roster, very competitive pros, and they clearly indicated their interest to remain involved going into 2021. However, we now have a ruling from Ubisoft that says, unfortunately, they will not be allowed to do so. Now, this is a weird one because the reason that Ubisoft provided that these pros would not be allowed to compete is because they no longer are represented by an org, which, in a way, I guess, hey, it kind of makes sense. But very kind of small part makes sense, right? Like, I can understand why a company would like to have a direct relationship with an organization involved in their pro league. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. But the issue here is the lack of communication with the players, as we realized that, according to head coach of this ex-United roster, Meepy, they found out at the same time as everybody else in the same Twitter announcement that Ubisoft made after weeks, if not months, of Meepy trying to get in contact with Ubisoft to clarify exactly what was going on.
That cannot happen, right?
Exactly.
There's obviously going to be very tiny stringents of this story that are very, very difficult for us to understand. But at the very, very baseline of what a lot of people have seen, if any, and we've seen this before, players or teams find out they are done or fired via a breaking report, via a tweet, via a teammate, and not actual staff or management, or in this case, Ubisoft.
Not even PR, not even like a slight heads up.
How are you going to, this could be very detrimental to a future of these guys, right? How do you not, at the very least, have that kind of decency? And that's where I see it from, because it's just the disrespect in that regard. And of course, you can add on other stories as well that I've covered in the past from like the Counter-Strike scene. To your point, it does make sense from a business perspective. You want to have a bigger brand tied to your players. It's a rare case, though, to see these players that do qualify now not attached. We've seen it formerly ESL Pro League for CSGO. There was a lot of rules based around like, okay, majority of the roster, they now own that spot, or vice versa. In some esports, the org always owns the spot for a variety of reasons. But yeah, this one obviously mostly sucks for the former players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we're 100% agreed on that. It is completely unacceptable for any company to make this type of decision without at least giving the players like, hey, some kind of heads up.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't have your spot for the next season, well in advance.
Like, imagine being one of those players and reading the tweet and
that's
finding out, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about?
Or getting DMs from your friends like, oh, yeah, you just lost your job, right?
Yeah.
That's completely unacceptable. And complicated even further by the fact that in that same announcement, Ubisoft announced that another team without an org, rent-free, would actually be taking their spot.
And forgive me, all the listeners, this is one of the stories I didn't have time to actually look into this week, so that's why we made it a podcast topic.
Yeah, right?
Have eUnited members spoken up about this as well? I imagine, or former eUnited members?
Former eUnited members have spoken up, completely baffled, taken by surprise, shocked, very, we've got statements from the entire essentially R6 community just not understanding what's going on here. Very similar to situations we saw earlier in the year with Luminosity, as well as the Evil Geniuses roster from R6.
It's a confusing scene to keep up with everything else going on, because it is just...
Ubisoft is like Twitch. They don't like to clarify things.
Because I remember seeing Interos tweet about this. Well, I call him Int because it's just, I mispronounce things all the time, so I just call him Int.
I think it's Intero.
Yeah, I know. But I call Asmongold the wrong thing too. But I saw his tweet about it. Is there a general sentiment, if you don't mind me, is this eUnited? Is this Ubisoft? Is this, the players?
eUnited is behind their players 100%.
Okay.
Well, actually, I've got a statement from their eUnited head of marketing that I'd like to get into in a second.
Please do, yes.
Yeah, just to clarify real quick, and this is not even like 100% of clarification, because technically this isn't even coming from Ubisoft. But
because I did want to really quickly say that, because certainly when you see these headlines, when you see people like Intero I love you, bro. You know I do.
Quintero, yes.
Yeah. He keeps on tweeting these kind of things. There's a lot of people out there who will not look into this situation. They see eUnited and they're like, it's their fault.
Yeah,
it's
because
the org's fault.
a lot of the time, you do immediately go to the org and you're like, yeah, these are your people. Why aren't you looking out for them? But it does seem like eUnited tried to, do their best. They allowed these players, usage of their team house through the end of the year. They weren't kicking them out immediately or anything. Trying to support them in the ways they could.
Yeah.
Real quick to circle back to the rent-free situation. Apparently, that may not be as clear-cut as Ubisoft made it sound. In the statement by Ubisoft, it very much sounded like they're just slotting in rent-free into the position that this eUnited roster formerly had, right? According to the captain of the Sonics, though, it's not quite that clear-cut, perhaps. They're just saying that rent-free, who's a Challengers League team, they have the opportunity to claim that spot if they find an org. So theoretically,
okay. That makes
it's a
more
race
sense.
between eUnited.
Who can get signed?
Yeah, which is also its
Kind
own
of
level of messed
sketchy,
up.
right?
That's so messed
Like
up.
we're only
what?
gonna, and again, you guys got to forgive us on the very very minute details.
Yeah, of course, we're not
But
R6 people on base level,
but I mean, you got like that's just in itself is like we will represent or allow the first team to be represented with a spot.
And
go.
That was not at all clear in Ubisoft's statement. Like I would not have all thought that that's what they were getting at unless I had heard this statement from Sonic's captain. And just to get back to the eUnited, the support from the org, here's a quick statement from their, director of marketing. He said, imagine working in a company and your boss quits. And then instead of you showing up to work the next day to continue working, the boss's boss tells you that you and your team are not allowed to work there anymore. He goes on to say, the focus for these esports leagues has to focus on sustainability and protection for esports organizations that invest hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars into ecosystems. And protections need to be put in place to protect players, the true lifeblood, which I think that's a fantastic statement. 100% agree there.
Yeah, and it's certainly, I guess, to, close this one on some note, it's very difficult, especially for a game like R6, where it is at. I wouldn't say it is thriving, but it's certainly a game that we saw a while back with possibilities. Great possibilities to support organizations and players, and I think it's going to be a tough balance for Rising Esports to find a way to support and back the orgs, but also the players, right? Because they're both, players are making the investment of time and orgs are making the investment of money, and so you have to weigh and balance, protect them and make them in some way financially sustainable for both your game as well as then to partake in it. So it's a tough balance though, right? It's not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the major holdup here is a lot of time, unfortunately, the publishers. I mean, not to get too deep into some things that we've heard off the record, but I've heard a lot of similar issues from CDL, OWL, in terms of the publishers making really rough decisions that put players and orgs in really unfortunate places.
Not something I want to dive into, but certainly I've heard things around the same realm, and those even more so. Those are franchise leagues, right? They are built for sustainability. They are built to make this a long-term play, and
we'll see
they
how
are
long
seeing,
OWL lasts.
Yeah, and they are seeing some of the biggest struggles. So, eUnited's former squad, certainly it seems like a very unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
We can only hope for the best. Is there even a best case scenario now?
Hard to say. Hopefully they make it out okay, though. We're going to send all of our best wishes to those people.
For sure. We'll see what happens. And I'll probably make this a bit of a quicker one, but we talked about on the recap as well, that being leaks. Leaks potentially stopping some big deals.
The spicy stuff.
It's certainly a bit spicy, and I do want to clarify. I want to add, just kind of pick your brain off the top. If you guys missed it this past week, we first talked about LA Thieves, 100 Thieves, their Call of Duty team, and the return to Call of Duty. Nadeshot came out on a Twitch stream and said a leak almost stopped that deal at the 11th hour, not the 12th hour. So, so it was
each by,
right?
Under the radar.
And then days later, we find out OpTic Gaming is now back, reacquired by Hex, and Hex has a very similar notion about the original leak many, many months ago. Not anything that we reported. I just want to clarify that because I am scared of Hex and I love him as well at the same time. But with that, he comes out in the same week span of LA Thieves and the 100 Thieves, and now we find out OpTic Gaming, that initial leak also almost stopped Hex from being able to reacquire OpTic Gaming. So my main question, I think the listeners would love to hear this as well from our perspective. We're a news outlet, right?
Yeah.
It is our job to report the news. And so has this maybe changed your outlook on because leaks and embargoes are very different. We would never break an embargo. Never would. I think we like being trusted. We are finally getting to the point where people will actually, tell us stuff for once.
Yeah.
I was getting so sick of orgs. Literally just in the DMs, they're like, hey, 5 minutes from now. Heads up. And I'm like,
or you know what I used to hate is getting an email for like a story that broke an hour ago.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, yo, why not just send it to me an hour ago?
You get the email and the tweet's already out. I'm like, what are you doing? Do you want me on your side or not? And then you get the embargoes for stuff that we just don't cover. But hey, we love the game as well. Does this change your perspective on, like, what if I was told from a trusted source some gigantic news? Because I think it's certainly changed and opened my eyes, because we're new to this, right?
Right.
We haven't been here before. But I think both of these guys speaking out has certainly changed my approach as to what we might do in the future.
Okay, so I'm going to approach this from the perspective of...
You're my team leader.
Yeah, I'm the team leader, right? So I'm the one who has to take into account, okay, how many views are we getting this week? How many views are we getting this month? Same for the website. Okay, what stories are we covering? What do we really need to hit on? What embargoes are we making sure that we tackle and get out at the right time, right? And so, you know, my mind is always constantly on how good is Esports Talk doing as a platform, and what can we do to improve? When you look at a leak, you look at some big news you've got under the table, you think, okay, not going to lie, the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, what kind of reach could this bring us? You know, what kind of audience could breaking this story bring to our platform? You know, that's got to be one of the first considerations that comes into play for us, as well as any other outlet out there. Personally, my thought has always been, I never want to break a story that's going to affect somebody's job, right? I never want to put a source in an awkward position where, hey, if I break this story, we break this story, that person might be out of a job because obviously they're going to be the one who leaked it to us, and, you know, that's a rough situation to put them in, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'd never considered that, hey, breaking a story about OpTic, you know, being back under the Hex umbrella, you know, being part of the Chicago brand might ruin that deal.
Right?
Same with LA Thieves. I didn't think that was... I would
I'm
love to
so
know more
naive.
details on, like, how exactly would that ruin the deal? Is that like a CDL thing? I'm wondering if it's a CDL thing, because these are both CDL situations.
Right.
And we've seen similar stuff leaked before, and we've never heard even an inkling of these deals being, like, you know, potentially ruined.
Yeah, and so obviously, again, we're newer in the space, and it's almost like we're kids in the game, but we have to learn as we go. And so I think it's going to be very subjective, but it just makes you think of, like, the Jacob Wolfs, right? Jacob Wolf will report, and I guess it's a form of a leak before it is actually announced, League of Legends transfers all the time, and you never hear about that affecting potential other moves.
Yeah, which it could behind the scenes, maybe.
So for me, it's like I almost want to say this is because it's both the Call of Duty scene and it's OpTic, right? These are brands that you just are so powerful and so diehardedly followed by a lot of people out there. I almost want to say it's almost like a very one-off. If it's an OpTic or if it's like a nade shot kind of thing, you don't want to mess with those kind of people. And maybe it's the nature of the bigger deals, right? Maybe individual roster leaks are different from these gigantic transfers deals of LA Thieves coming to fruition or OpTic Gaming coming back, right? So it makes me think at night, I'm possible. Like, what do I do, you know?
Yeah.
Because certainly we're going to keep on getting information, and we have already I get told things every day. I am blessed to have people tell me that stuff. And most of the time, I'm just like, I love knowing this. I'm not going to say anything, but it better prepares me when those moments do come.
Yeah.
But people don't see that side, right? People don't see the things I don't say.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's my last bit on this. We will never break an embargo just to get page views. Like, believe me, I double, triple check everything that goes live.
It's not beneficial. It just makes
because, like,
no
personally,
business sense.
I not only as a member of the industry, but also a member of the community, like, I hate seeing these announcements ruined for people who put so much time and energy into, like, really, you know, making this whole big reveal, you know? Like, I kind of don't love the fact that I knew about OpTic and Hex coming back together before the big pop happened. You know, I would have loved to see that, you know, when Hex revealed it himself.
There is no story big enough that's worth breaking an embargo for. It wouldn't do us enough, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not worth the couple $100 that it might bring.
Yeah, right. Like, I'd much rather, you know, not disrespect those people's work, although I certainly understand why people do leak stuff. You know, hey, I'm not here to bag on that.
To each their own.
And yeah, you know, I think if we were in a situation where perhaps if we heard about misconduct in an org, something like that, you know, hey, I think that's a story we could see a moral reason to leak that to help those people being treated unfairly. Yeah. But anything that's not within that realm, I can't see it.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick your brain because I'm sure people love hearing that side of things. You know, there's just so much that is out there. So, yeah, very interesting topic. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, Jake, I figured I'd wrap things up for my last topic of the week with, a fun old complainy, like let's just complain for a second,
Ooh, Yes, let's do it.
about nothing too serious, nothing involving players getting kicked out of teams or saying naughty stuff or, just some good old fun. Yeah, why are you doing this, my guy?
I love it. Some grade A banter.
Yeah, right. So I don't know if you've heard about the exclusive content coming to Call of Duty Cold War for the PlayStation.
I only did once you actually showed me it,
Uh-huh.
and I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about it.
Yeah, right, because it is ridiculous.
Yes,
It's
and you are talking
insane.
about if you are owning a PlayStation,
Yes.
the content you get or the benefits you get that other console or PC users will not be getting.
Absolutely. And let me be clear right out the bat. I am a PlayStation guy through and through. I've tried to get a PS5 literally like every day since the pre-order started. No luck so far. Zan is very sad,
But now we know why you're still trying to get one. Golly gee.
with deals like this, how could I not? But anyway, so yeah, as a lot of people know out there, PlayStation has an exclusive arrangement with Activision, the company that owns Call of Duty, to get like some exclusive stuff every year, just to incentivize people to buy Call of Duty on the PlayStation as opposed to an Xbox or a PC. However, this year they're taking things a little bit too far. And let me just run down the list of insane stuff that PlayStation people get over Xbox or PC players. Any PlayStation player will get 2 extra creative class slots, which is just a straight up, that's a gameplay thing. Why are you doing that to people? That just sounds mean.
Yeah, that's
I'm
just
not gonna lie.
it's a quality of life update.
Yeah. Like why? Like that honestly, that's not like somebody at PlayStation was like mad. They
It's
were
like it's like if
PlayStation.
RuneScape was on PlayStation. They're like, you get RuneScape membership if you're on PlayStation. You got to play the regular game if you're on Xbox. It's like there's so much of a
right.
quality of life difference. Now it's not that big, but it's something,
It's
right?
pretty major. I mean, picking an extra class, I mean, that's like literally the first thing I try to do in any Call of Duty game. Like you set up your classes, not only that, but you get to skip tiers in the battle pass, as far as I know. I believe that's how that works. You get extra weapon experience, which is just saving a ton of time. You also get double experience events every single month, exclusively for PlayStation. Not only that, but you get a bonus experience boost anytime you play with exclusively PlayStation parties.
Wow.
So that's a lot of stuff right there.
Yeah, and obviously from a business standpoint, this being the same year or time of year where a brand new PlayStation is also being released, it is a very important launch, which was probably already going to do well, and this probably just further adds to that list. So from a business standpoint, obviously it makes sense, right? And no one is talking about it enough to care. And meanwhile, all we're seeing on Twitter is fake Xbox vaping videos. So it's so PlayStation's rolling in it right now, and they see those like
they're just chilling.
double XP, and it works. You can vape into our consoles, like it's.
Let's also be real. PS5s have had some launch issues. Let's be fair.
Obviously.
And
so.
yeah, the Xbox vaping. There was contention about that just this morning, I believe. A very famous Polish YouTuber, one of the biggest one in Poland, he did an interview with the guy who published that Xbox vaping video. He doubled down. He was like, "For real, I'm not kidding. That was legit." I don't believe him at all, because that's not what smoke would look like coming out of that kind of hardware. But doubling down like that with the biggest Polish YouTuber,
it did look like a
big
humidifier.
swing.
It was very. It was not like a surgical smoke, like an actual electric fire.
Like,
I'm sounding so stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hardware fires, like something like this, like a fire would start maybe in the PS.
It's not going to look like water vapor.
It would start from like the power supply unit or something like that, and it would be like dark. It would be like you.
Yeah,
I honestly like black.
It literally looks like a humidifier, that water vapor kind of. But hey, it's it's kind of where we're at right now on the internet, right? I mean, I saw it and I believed it. I didn't think that's not the right color smoke.
Well, yeah, to be fair, you have to be the hardware person to think like,
and then
it's not hardware.
Then it takes 2 or 3 full days where finally people are like, oh, they're probably faked. And I'm like, oh. I mean, hey, it doesn't sway us, because I am more so a PlayStation guy than an Xbox guy, but I'm a PC guy at heart. So like that's all I care about. But it's funny that that's like that's actually a potential, like PlayStation's like loving it right now.
Yeah, I feel so bad for the marketing people at these companies, like literally like every week, because they hit this random stuff that they know is obviously fake, and what are they supposed to do?
It literally could have happened to either side too.
For
both
real.
sides could have had vape smoke pouring out of them, and then what do we do?
Yeah.
Like what? Either way, both
then you go
sides.
to Stadia.
I mean, oh yeah, here we go. Either way, Xbox, PlayStation doing great things as well. But if you're on PlayStation, obvious benefits.
Yeah, a little bit.
And very lastly, why not talk about Twitch, right? It's certainly going to be an ongoing topic.
On this week's episode of Twitch Why.
Why? Twitch Why?
Like, what are you doing, my guy?
Unfortunately, we talked about this past week. Twitch actually issued an apology with a statement with some further clarification on the DMCA issue.
First time in like, when is the last time you saw an apology from Twitch?
I don't think I've ever seen anything from Twitch that says we're sorry, but hey.
I looked. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, a keyword search.
Yeah.
But take it for what it is. I do appreciate the apology. I'm sure Twitch streamers do as well. More importantly, Twitch streamers realized in that apology, pretty empty given the fact that they kind of just said, hey, we're sorry. We really can't help you right now. Like, to make sure to mute everything you're unsure about, delete everything you're unsure about, and we will try and get to everybody and work on future development tools that will keep this DMCA thing from being an issue in the future. I will stress as well, I am still concerned about lower and middle tier streamers who are still banned by DMCA. Meanwhile, top streamers have had really no issues being unbanned pretty fast within a couple hours or a couple days max. So I am worried about that. But more importantly, a recent tweet as well, in someone talking about in-game audio and in-game music, Twitch decided to respond, and it was one of their most quoted tweets of a long, long time.
I'd say this goes right up there with that tweet from Alex Hutchinson a couple weeks ago where he was like, yeah, streamers should pay to stream their games.
Very much so.
Where Twitch was like, hey, just, the whole aspect of playing a game, you got at its base level, it's the audio experience of playing the game paired with the video experience with the tactile experience in the middle. And they're just like, yeah, get rid of one of those three pillars. Just don't have any audio while you're playing your games.
Twitch responded and said, just mute the in-game audio. That obviously causing a gigantic issue because if you didn't catch it, Google Stadia director, or one of them, Alex Hutchinson, Bang Bang Click.
Yeah, not actually director. Yeah, he just worked for a studio.
Works for one of the Stadia studios. It's confusing. But he came out a couple weeks back and said streamers should actually pay to play the games they stream. The issue being, if you're going to mute your in-game audio after paying for the game, that's the issue, right? You are paying in full, let's say it's $60 title, and then because of DMCA, you can't listen to in-game music. But the fact they said mute your in-game audio, kind of just very poorly worded in my opinion.
I've also seen some people concerned that, hey, my DMCA might have actually come from like an audio cue that played.
Yeah. So, you've seen so many things now, and we cannot confirm that, but I would not be surprised because we've also seen IRL streams be DMCA'd for IRL sirens. So those things have been popping up for just... It's obviously it's a mess.
It's a mess, especially because the one thing I hated in this response from Twitch is they didn't really address the issue that a lot of streamers have been running into, where even if they do everything that Twitch says they should do, even if they get rid of millions of clips, hundreds of hours of content that people love to see, even if they get rid of that, they still might catch a ban.
Yep, Devin Ash has a great video on that, how your clips and your VODs are still stored on some Twitch servers, and that's why we saw a number of streamers still being banned, whether they've already deleted or in the process of deleting. So either way, Twitch did say sorry. That sorry felt empty from a lot of people out there, and the responses they have continued to make have continued to rile up people even further.
As per usual.
All we can do now is really just hope. Why Twitch? Why? As per usual, we hope you guys all enjoy the Esports Rewind podcast. Thank you all for listening. Spicy topics, as per usual. I'm going to beat you to one thing. Thanks to all of you guys who sent us DMs, either on my Twitter or on the main Twitter as well. Really appreciate that. We get so many stories from you guys, and just super thankful for all of you guys who send that stuff in. Now, Zane, see these folks out of here. Get them with the outro.
Yo, we'll short and simple this week. I'll keep it simple. We're also on the Prediction Esports Talk Show Network, just in case you want to listen to the Esports Rewind podcast on the go on your mobile phone, really anywhere at all. We're on iTunes and Spotify. Just type in PREEDICTION. We're right there alongside a lot of other fantastic esports and gaming news podcasts. So by all means, swing through, check it out, download an episode. It does help support us a lot. Thank you guys. Shout out to our audio listeners. If you like some more esports news, you can find us on YouTube at Esports Talk. We're on Twitter at talk_esports, Instagram esports_talk. And quick announcement, my guy, we're starting up the TikTok. We're getting some small stuff going there.
Hit him.
Yeah, it's just Esports Talk. Just look up Esports Talk. We're right there.
We're going to try and get the TikTok game down. We'll see what happens.
Now that TikTok, now that we don't have to worry about the platform disappearing from the country, now we're like, okay, maybe we can exist there. So,
we're going to try and figure out what content goes on there as we keep on pumping out content for you guys. As per usual, hope you guys all enjoy the Esports Rewind podcast. Same time, same day, every single week. Peace, gamers.